Hello and welcome to another video from the only source of information that you need to not only survive the current apocalypse, but actually enjoy it. And today we're going to be talking about the two witnesses discussed in Revelation chapter 11. I recently received a question on one of my newer videos inquiring as to who I think the two witnesses of Revelation are. I'm not going to read the whole chapter to you, but just to jog your memories, let's take a look at Revelation chapter 11 and verses 3 and 4. And I will appoint my two witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. They are the two olive trees and the two lampstands, and they stand before the Lord of the earth. Now, in several of my previous videos, I discussed at length the fact that much of the symbolism in Revelation and other parts of the Bible refers to celestial phenomenon. When God begins to repair the solar system, that will mark the start of the tribulation. The time period of 1,260 days may not mean much to us right now, but once the moon goes permanently full, all 12 months of the year will be a perfect 30 days and 30 nights each. January, February, March, April, and so on will no longer vary in length when the sun and moon go back into conjunction. So you can say that for 1,260 days, or 3.5 360-day years, the sun will always illuminate half of the earth, and the moon will always illuminate the other half. Symbolically speaking, the moon and the sun are the two witnesses. Once in conjunction, there will be no part of the earth that will not be lit by one of the two. Together, the sun and the moon will bear witness to all that happens on the surface of the planet for 3.5 years until the return of Jesus. Now, for the longest time, I knew for a fact that Revelation 11 could only refer to the sun and the moon. Being filled with the spirit of Elijah, I thought I knew with certainty that there was no one else like me on the planet. In the words of Jewish law spoken of in Deuteronomy chapter 19 and verse 15, one witness is not enough to convict anyone accused of any crime or offense they may have committed. A matter must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. Therefore, because I'm only one person, I figured that the 2 witnesses had to be just our 2 heavenly luminaries. However, I'm not so sure of that anymore. I recently revealed that I had come into contact with a woman with whom, it turns out, I have a great deal in common. After getting to know her for a few months, I really think that she's like a female version of me, or the Eve to my Adam, so to speak. Previously, I had given up all hope of ever finding someone to love in this life. Anyway, after years of thinking that I was all alone, I talked to this woman on Skype and realized how much alike we were. That night, after talking to her, I was lying in bed trying to go to sleep, but I couldn't stop thinking about the 2 witnesses of Revelation. The thought that she might be the second witness was all that I could think about. The next time we chatted, out of the blue, she asked me, "Who do you think the 2 witnesses of Revelation are?" I was absolutely astonished. Why would she just ask such an odd question? We had not spoken of it previously, and I hadn't said anything to her about it that day. I had not even thought about sharing that information with her. How did this thought just pop into both of our heads at the same time? Not only do we both know the Bible very well, we're also both strongly connected to God's Holy Spirit. And we have both professed to God in prayer that we are willing to die for His cause. It would seem that He might just be entirely prepared to take us up on that offer. Anyway, I just looked at her and said, I think it may be me and you. She replied, I think so too. Now, we cannot confirm that we are the two witnesses for certain until we're officially appointed by God and granted the power spoken of in Revelation chapter 11. If and when that happens, we'll let you all know. Until then, we can be confident that the primary participants in those verses will be the sun and the moon. Many online have speculated about the identities of the two witnesses for years now. The most common theory seems to be that the two witnesses will be Elijah and Moses, or Elijah and Enoch. In the case of Elijah and Moses, the scriptural support cited has always been the powers given to the witnesses. Elijah had the power to call down fire from heaven and shut up the sky from raining, whereas Moses had the power to split the seas and call plagues down on mankind. There is also the fact that both Elijah and Moses made an appearance during the transfiguration of Jesus in Matthew chapter 17. I personally find the scriptural support for Enoch being one of the witnesses to be weak. At the end of the 1,260 days of prophesying, the beast from the abyss is supposed to rise up and kill the witnesses. The Bible states in chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes that everything born has a time to die. So, because Enoch was supposedly taken to heaven alive and never died, some believe that he might be one of the two witnesses. I've confessed to all of you that I am Elijah. Because of this fact, I have had many prophetic dreams revealing so many deeply buried biblical secrets over the years that there can be no denying it. This is part of the reason that we can know that the tribulation is coming soon. As was prophesied at Malachi chapter 4 and verses 5 and 6, Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. The scene of this world is changing, and not for the better. And it's only going to get worse. Even people without faith recognize that something is absolutely wrong. So you really need to think about this. If you know in your heart that the end of civilization is drawing near, then you have to recognize that Elijah, in fact, is here. If that is the case, then you have to ask yourself, where is he? If it isn't me, then who is it? Your only other option is to convince yourself that this isn't the end. Malachi chapter 4 verses 5 and 6 presumably refers to both his first and second comings. Several Bible books speak of John the Baptist being Elijah, and Jesus himself said that not only was John the Baptist Elijah, but that Elijah would come again before the last days. John bore the spirit of Elijah before Jesus' first coming, and now I bear that same spirit as the one preparing the way for his second. Since the Elijah-Moses theory is so popular, we need to explain why that theory is not viable. First off, even though I am alive and I could easily die, which is one of the requirements of the two witnesses, Moses is not. Plus, unlike the many prophecies about Elijah returning before the last days, there are absolutely no prophecies about Moses returning. As I said earlier, the two witnesses of Revelation are for a fact the sun and the moon. I'll leave a link to a series I produced a few years back explaining all of this in great detail. When Moses was alive, he participated in a sacred ritual in the tent of meeting, also known as the tabernacle, with Aaron, in which sunlight came out of his face and lit up Aaron's breastplate. In that ritual, Moses obviously represented the sun, and Aaron represented the moon. So if anything, the two witnesses could potentially be Moses and Aaron. But once again, Aaron is also dead, and there are no scriptures about Aaron returning in the last days. However, knowing that the two witnesses are the sun and the moon, there is information about the sun and the moon that is recorded in the Bible book known as Canticle of Canticles. Some call it the Song of Solomon. Others refer to it as the Song of Songs. In this book, the moon is represented by a woman. Such a story is also told in the book of Esther. The name Esther is Persian, and it means the same thing as the Phoenician word Ashtoreth, the Greek word Astarte, the Assyrian word Ishtar, and our modern English word Easter. All of these names refer to female moon goddesses of fertility. In the ancient Hebrew language, Eve is called Aisha, which is the same as the ancient Egyptian word Isis. In Egyptian mythology, Isis is the moon goddess of Egypt. Culturally, all ancient religions had sun gods and moon goddesses. Ancient cultural myths from around the world and nations as dispersed as Babylon, Egypt, Assyria, Greece, Rome, and even the Americas had sun gods and moon goddesses. If in fact there is a second fulfillment of Revelation chapter 11, it is likely that one of the two witnesses will be female. There are quite a few stories in the Bible about brides and women. In fact, the book of Revelation that reveals the information about the two witnesses speaks quite a bit about the return of God's woman. In any case, just as I had many prophetic dreams before I met my girlfriend, I have apparently had several shared dreams or experiences with my girlfriend, even though we were over 1,000 miles from one another at the time. Although I've always thought that the prophecy was about the sun and moon and nothing else, I now suspect that if there are going to be actual humans who experience the things of Revelation chapter 11, it will be me and her who experience those things. Either way, we expect both of us to act as sustenance and covering from now on. In fact, my girlfriend is the one who wrote this script as a contribution to the work we do here, so that I could spend time writing a script about the timing of the restoration of our solar system. As always, thank you for listening, and if you do not want to survive, don't listen to us.